A life in a cage is no life at all. That's the bottom line. That is the belief that drives the work being done by an incredible organization, Four Paws South Africa, right now. And they represent an incredible collective in the animal welfare space. This global animal welfare organization for animals under direct human influence have had a voice, and they are using it. Just a few days ago, they celebrated their inaugural Four Paws State of Animal Welfare Address, detailing how scared and abused animals in cages are subjected to unbelievable conditions right now. I think we're all living in denial. And I had the great privilege of hosting this incredibly important event, and it has changed my paradigm forever. I'm going to say that I don't know how you do what you do every day. Joining us to reiterate their message is the director of Four Paws South Africa, Fiona Miles, alongside my spirit animal campaign officer, Saliwe Shavambu, who is a driving force behind this. I'm going to say thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for dragging the rest of us along with you. To see that many like-minded stakeholders, to see political parties setting aside party politics, but just to see the extent that people are going to, it was hopeful. So I don't want people to think that this is just all doom and gloom, but it was also terrifying. So maybe let's start there. Where's this baseline at? What is the state of animal welfare in South Africa? And I know it speaks to the globe at the moment, but where are we at?
I think we're at a point where we need to be conscious and start being aware of what's going on. I think every day we're not aware of what's going on. The food that we eat, the things we put into the atmosphere, we're walking with blinders on. And I think that was the whole purpose of the event, was to bring people together and to say, look, the state of animal welfare in South Africa is poor, and we need to set ourselves apart and start making changes, start doing something differently for ourselves as people, for the animals, and for the planet, because there's an interconnectedness between all three. And if we don't recognize that, we are the ones that are going to suffer.
We're doomed. We are doomed. I think we've reached that line now. And that was the big thing that I just couldn't escape as I do shed my tear on the way home, because it was just a lot to take in. So maybe you can talk us through some of the big kind of moments, the numbers that really jumped off the page on Friday night.
I think, on Friday night, what we saw was animal welfare organizations coming together and saying we need to put animal welfare in the political agenda.
We need legislation, we need policy, we need it.
Policies, we need, law to be enforced. And I think for the first time we saw these organizations coming together and actually, in one voice declaring that animal welfare should happen worldwide. And that for us as Four Paws is the greatest achievement.
Well, in 20 years, I haven't seen it yet, that combination, ever.
It was that convening. And like you said, politics were put aside. All these animal welfare organizations have been in the space for a very long time. And I think for the first time we were owning it. We were becoming the authoritative voice for animal welfare. We were saying that, politics is there to reflect the will of the people. And 86% of South Africans believe that animal welfare is bad, and we wanted to show that. We wanted to speak for, the animals in the wild, the animals in our farms, and the animals in our homes.
The animals at our side. If we were talking about this level of trauma, and in the next segment we are going to show some visuals that just haven't left me yet. We are talking about trauma, and if we plug this kind of trauma into any other social space, we would not move forward without processing it. And yet our children are seeing this level of trauma every day, and we are then enjoying the fruits of this process. There's got to be a massive psychological breakdown, economic breakdown. It just speaks to a massive disconnect in that sense. What will happen when we talk about meat exhaustion, when we talk about that line in the sand? What happens if we don't get political traction, if we don't actually start doing something material now about it?
As you say, it's the 10th of May, Friday, was actually Meat Exhaustion Day, which is the 5th month of the year, and we've actually, as South Africans, consumed all the meat that we are scientifically and from a health perspective allowed to consume. That is a huge impact, and it shows that we need to really work on reducing and refining and replacing what we are consuming, as you say, all that massive consumption. If we don't start doing something, we are going to be really impacted, because the welfare of the animal, the welfare of the planet is going to we are going to be impacted by that.
It's one welfare, it has to be.
It has to be a one welfare approach. And if we don't approach it from that perspective, it's as you say, it's not doom and gloom, but certainly we have to do something serious and take it very seriously.
Yeah.
I love the notion now that we have almost run out of time and space to deal with this, and I think people understand that, whether we can take it all on board yet or not. Maybe it is too much to fully embrace, but we've got to start thinking about the next generation. My idea of sustainability has changed, and I'm not saying that eating animals is must come to an end now. It's not an emotional choice. This isn't that path. This is about the actual sustainability of this system. Where do we even begin when we think about designating funds? Now, I suppose this needs to be broken up into the wild spaces, into farming, and into domestic. Where should that focal kind of area be right now? What needs to shift in that space, do you think?
I think, one of the things we were calling for in the SOA address that was delivered by Ms. Fiona Miles was, for funding to come to, for veterinary services in underprivileged communities. I think when we speak about companion animals, we speak about animals that we stay with in our homes, but there are so many animals that are also homeless. And there's so many animals that don't receive the veterinary, care that they need.
These are animals that we have domesticated.
Yes, that we have domesticated. And therefore, it's so important that, as we heard, Alderman J.P. Smith, when he was responding to the address, spoke about the responsibility that lies in municipalities, right? And organizations like Four Paws have put themselves in the communities, and we have taken charge to say that we need a sustainable model that could, that we could use to ensure, a stray population management. So those kind of calls that we call municipalities, where we call organizations like Four Paws, we basically are saying that we need to come together. We can no longer work in silos. The problem is bigger than us. We have crunched the numbers. The numbers are presented to us. We see the number of animals that, are, companion animals that are stray animals. We see the numbers of animals that are not vaccinated, that are not sterilized, and the problem is getting out of hand.
It's critical mass now, I think.
Come together. Yes, we need to come together. I think we have to recognize that too much of everything becomes a problem, and we cannot do this work in silos, and which is why the SOA on Friday, we witnessed such a convening of like-minded organizations.
And it becomes, again, like we've seen in the advancements within the medical space, it's the sharing of critical data, but it's that indigenous data. We need to know what that community needs in order to be able to help their animals, help them with their allotments, help them with their own food production. It occurred to me on that night, listening to these incredibly intelligent, empowered people transferring data amongst each other, that might be what it takes, is just a shift in legislation so that we can only buy meat from within 10 kilometers of where we live. Something small might shift the bigger picture dramatically, but what it depends on is all the stakeholders putting their hands up. And NGOs, welfare-based organizations, know the communities. They've been based there for 20, 25 years. They have the trust and they know what's needed. So we need you to put your hands up as well. Maybe this is how you want to cast your vote. Start looking into party politics when it comes to welfare. We're going to continue this discussion in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Oh, man. Well, the conversation pretty much hasn't stopped since we last saw you, so thank you for rejoining it. We are continuing a vital discussion around improving animal welfare in South Africa, because it also speaks to the global ecosystem at the moment, and we have an opportunity to lead the charge. And recently, a survey was done here in South Africa and revealed that, thankfully, 86% of South Africans right now believe that the state of animal welfare is unacceptable. I'm going to please put out a warning right now. We are going to show visuals, some photos, some video footage that were very distressing for me. If you are sensitive for this kind of thing, it will hit hard. So please be aware of that. I want to talk about the Kuwait death ship, because I thought this was an anomaly. This was a ship that had gotten lost, not the norm of how animals are literally being born into a life of trauma, a cage, floated around the world and then slaughtered. And then we are eating that meat thinking we are going to get some kind of positive anything from that production line. Why are we only waking up to that now? Has it been flying under the radar? If this is such a common practice, and how common maybe is a good way of starting this, is that the norm out there in the world now? And those images, I think people cannot move past.
I think, we are so used to the picture of a happy cow when we have our milk. The picture of the picture of animals, farmed animals, basking in the sun and in like, grazeland and just living a happy life is the picture that, great PR, especially from farms that we've been receiving, right? But this is the reality. From farm to fork, this is how animals actually live so that they can actually, provide the meat that we find on our plate. I think people need to start thinking about the environmental cost of just their meal. The environmental
Just
cost
the fuel
of,
alone.
of just, fuel alone. That's how we need to look at it. But I think that ship that docked in Cape Town a few weeks ago is the life of animals. And I think that's why we wanted the state of animal welfare, is because we wanted to address such issues. We wanted to give you guys the numbers. We wanted to give you the number of cattle in that ship, And this isn't the only ship. It just docked. It just happened.
It just
was
happened
a
to
reminder.
come down here,
It was a reminder of, the lives that, farmed animals are faced. And
and it almost occurs to me that, and we are not attacking all farmers, and I please need all farmers to understand this. We are attacking the production line that has come as a result of
intensive
us
farming.
commoditizing, if that's the word, a living creature in this way. There are farms that run beautifully, that manage sustainably, that work regeneratively. I understand that there is an incredible voice for that within the farming community. I'm talking about the production line thereafter, how it makes it to our plate, and that's the terrifying thing. Clearly, most South Africans want to do something about this. How do we do that? What is the first step? Maybe when we look at the farming situation, what can we do to affect change?
I think we need to start by educating ourselves. So that's exactly the purpose. That was the purpose of the event. And hold up a mirror to our face, hold up a mirror to ourselves, our families and communities, and our politicians, and say that we need to do things differently. So people can really, as you say, we're not attacking farmers, we're not looking at it from that perspective, but we need to take responsibility for our own behavior. What can I do to reduce my consumption? What can I do to replace? What can I do to refine what I'm doing so that on a daily basis it becomes a practice, it becomes a habit? We need to create that consciousness and that collective consciousness. We should be talking with each other as we're doing today.
Completely,
And we do need to make this a political issue. We do need to start demanding. And as Liwe was saying earlier on, it's within our responsibility. We can ask for things to change. We're allowed to. We can bring that to the table.
In fact, that's what our vote is there for, is to speak to that. So how would you, and you are just ridiculously young, which blows my mind to how much you've achieved, and you've been recognized for that. So I'm so grateful that that's fueled your fire even more. How are you going to go about choosing the parties to back? How would you plug your energy into the space as an example for other South Africans to use their own political voice?
I think more importantly, even with the upcoming election, is for people to study the political parties. From political parties to independent candidates, study the manifestos. These manifestos are actually there, and I think this is just, the voter 101. Manifestos are there to reflect the will of the voters, right? And if your will is for animal welfare to be in the political agenda, that's your key search word when you're looking at political manifestos. If your will as a voter is to have animals be recognized for their sentience, that's the key word you're searching for in the political manifesto. And this is a number of social ills already. You need to look at that and actually search political parties that reflect what the South Africa you want to see. And as for Pause, the South Africa we want to see is a world where animals are treated with respect, empathy, and care.
Completely, because it speaks to one way of welfare. The animals will only be okay if the people are okay, and the people will only be okay if the ecosystems around them are okay. I have a feeling that this is the first step of a collaborative effort that is going to shift the baseline. I can't see us moving backwards from this point. The political will is there. There are champions within the political space, and I think my vote has changed as a result of what I heard on Friday night. And I was struggling to figure out how I was going to go about that journey myself. I feel empowered to do something about it right now. NGOs that have the trust-based relationships, that have worked within these ecosystems, that understand the science, understand the people and those welfare pressure points, how do they become a part of this collective? What do you need from them, and how can they make contact with you and rally to the war cry?
I think it's really important that we recognize within the NGO space that we can't work in silos. We cannot work alone. This is a huge task ahead of us in terms of, and we're at that tipping point now. So to come together, to work together, to work off of each other's strengths as well. There are so many people in the field doing incredible work for domestic animals, for farm animals. They are often unrecognized. So what can we do to support, to elevate, and to bring their voices forward? And what can we do to really continue to have these engagements? This shouldn't be something that we kind of think about once a year. This needs to be daily work. And so there are coalitions. There's the Wild Animal Protection Forum, there's the Farm Animal Alliance, there's the Cape Animal Welfare Forum. These are groups of like-minded people coming together to do that work. That needs to be funded. We need a lot more funding to come through to the organizations that are doing that work on the ground. And we really need to also put aside any internal politics and actually say, let's focus on the animals, let's work together.
We're no longer fighting for the same slice of the pie. And what I love about these collectives, there are lawyers there that will help you fight your case. There are business leaders that will help you build your business, your social entrepreneurial venture. There are like-minded people, but the bottom line is this kind of gateway. We've got one person saving tens of thousands. We need every person to save one. And if we can shift that mindset and all live just a little bit kinder, the results, the mark on our kids' psyche alone, we will not have to explain what we have done to this planet and our animals, our companions, to our children one day when we have crossed that line and there is no way back. And that day is a lot closer than people think. I would recommend that you go to Four Paws SA's website, go to their YouTube channel. You'll be able to pick up snippets of the speeches that were made on that night to see the extent that our fellow humans, our brothers and sisters, are going to save our planet while us just sit there with blinkers on and carry on consuming and consuming. There is an opportunity to do something massive, and it starts in the political space, and we have a vote to make on the 29th, so use yours with power. Thank you so much for doing what you do every day. Love you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.